Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're not getting into economic data or scientific breakthroughs. We're going somewhere deeper, somewhere older.
Much older.
We're talking about a truth that I think most of us spend our lives trying to outrun.
Mm-hmm.
The simple fact that we are all going to die. But here's the twist, and this is what our deep dive is all about.
Mm-hmm.
That realization isn't a curse. It might just be the single greatest motivation to live an incredible life.
And to really get a feel for the power of this idea, you have to go back in time. I want you to picture one of the most dramatic scenes from history, the Roman triumph.
Okay.
Imagine the city of Rome just packed, hundreds of thousands of people cheering. And in the middle of it all, you have the triumphant general. He's on this ornate chariot, robed in gold. This is the absolute peak of human glory.
He's basically a rock star.
Yeah.
The world is at his feet, and you can imagine the ego in that moment.
Right.
Man can easily start to believe that he's a god.
Yeah, exactly. Untouchable. But here's the thing. Amidst all that noise, all the chaos, there was one quiet voice that was designed to cut through it all.
A slave, right? A low-ranking slave stood right behind him on the chariot.
Right behind him. And he would lean in and just whisper a very short phrase in his ear.
Memento Mori.
Memento Mori.
It sounds so ominous. But the translation is actually quite simple, isn't it?
It is. It just means, remember, you must die.
And this wasn't a threat. It wasn't some kind of, cruel joke.
No, not at all. This was high philosophy for the Romans, for the Stoics. It was a tool, a mechanism, specifically designed to keep that general grounded.
To stop him from being blinded by all the power, the fame.
Or even just intense happiness. Because they knew it was all temporary. Life itself is temporary. And only by accepting that can you find real clarity.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack how this ancient truth forces what we're calling sharp prioritization, how it turns fear into maybe the most powerful tool you have.
If you really want to see this philosophy in action, you have to look at someone like Marcus Aurelius.
The philosopher king.
The philosopher king, yeah. He ruled the Roman Empire during a time of just complete chaos. There were constant wars on the borders, but more importantly, there was the Antonine Plague.
And the numbers from back then are they're grim. The plague killed something like 5 million people.
Up to 5 million, yeah. And in some parts of the empire, historical records suggest it wiped out a third of the population.
So for them, death wasn't this abstract thing you
Yeah.
think about when you're old. It was.
Yeah.
It was everywhere, every single day.
Just waking up in the morning was a small miracle. It was never guaranteed.
Right.
And that's exactly why he wrote what he did in his private journal, which we now call Meditations. He wrote, and I'm quoting here, "You could leave this world right now. Let that fact determine what you do and say and think."
Wow. So he was using it as a constant, a self-correction tool.
All the time. But fast forward to our world, and we do the complete opposite, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. We've built these huge global industries just to deny it. I mean, look at the anti-aging and beauty markets.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
Hundreds of billions. And what is that money really for? It's a reflection of this deep collective fear we have of getting old, of decaying, of being forgotten.
Yeah.
We're literally trying to buy more time.
And that denial, that running away from it, it becomes this massive chain that holds us back. It fuels our worst habits.
Procrastination.
Exactly. Oh, I'll tell him I love him tomorrow. Or, staying in a job you absolutely hate because you think, I've got plenty of time to chase my dream later. We act like we have a guaranteed contract for the next 50 years.
But reality is just brutally fair. The stats don't lie. I mean, the WHO data is staggering. 17.9 million people die from cardiovascular diseases every single year.
And another 1.3 million from road accidents.
It's just so random. It doesn't care how rich you are or how famous you are. It resets everything to zero. It really makes you wonder, what are we all waiting for?
Which brings us to the core of how this works. It's a filtering effect. Let's just try the thought experiment right now.
Okay.
If you knew for a fact you only had 7 days left to live, what would actually matter to you?
Right. I mean, all my current anxieties, the email my boss sent, that weird comment a colleague made, how many likes my last post got, all of it would just poof, it would vanish. It becomes completely meaningless. The answer is an immediate, no, that doesn't matter.
That's the filter. Death just instantly strips away all the nonsense, all the trivial stuff we get worked up about. And what's left is the bedrock.
Relationships, your integrity, what you actually contributed.
The things that are truly meaningful.
But here's the question I think people struggle with. If I'm constantly thinking, I might die tomorrow, How do I possibly focus on long-term goals? You know, like starting a business or raising a child. Doesn't that sort of paralyze you?
That's such a critical point. Memento Mori doesn't mean you stop planning for the future. It means you start procrastinating on the important things now.
The hard choices.
The things that take courage. And Steve Jobs talked about this perfectly in that 2005 Stanford speech.
Right. He said it was the most important tool he ever had for making big life decisions. But why?
Because, as he put it, almost everything we build our lives around—
External expectations.
fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, all those things just fall away when you're faced with death. They collapse.
So what's left is just what truly matters to you.
Exactly. The fear of what other people think is tied to the future. But if the future isn't guaranteed, that fear loses all its power. It actually liberates you to start the big, important projects today.
It's fascinating how this connects to modern psychology. There's this idea called terror management theory, or TMT.
TMT basically says that this underlying fear of death, this existential dread, is a massive driver of almost all human behavior, even when we don't realize it.
And if we handle that fear badly,
it leads to anxiety, depression. We chase status symbols, things we think will outlive us. But if you accept it, what psychologists call death acceptance, all that energy you were using to run away gets converted.
Into what?
Into creative energy, into building a legacy.
And we can actually see this play out on a national scale. Look at Bhutan.
Right, the country that measures gross national happiness.
They actively teach their citizens to think about death 5 times a day. You'd think that would make them the most depressed country on earth.
But it doesn't. They have a remarkably high happiness index. Because that acceptance, that constant reminder, it sharpens their appreciation for the present moment.
It makes everything more vivid.
You taste your tea more fully. You feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. You see the smile on a loved one's face, and you recognize it for what it is, a temporary, precious gift.
When you look at relationships, the emotional cost of forgetting this is just, it's huge.
Yeah.
There was a nurse, Bronnie Ware, who cared for people at the end of their lives.
Right, and she documented their biggest regrets.
And the number one regret had nothing to do with money or a career.
No, the number one regret was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me.
That's heartbreaking. It's basically proof that so many of us spend our lives wearing masks, playing roles for other people.
Forgetting that the play has an ending and there's no encore.
So Memento Mori is almost like a permission slip. It gives you permission to finally be authentic.
And it changes your personal relationships instantly. Think about the last silly argument you had with someone you love, a partner, a parent.
Okay.
Now, imagine in that exact moment the thought crossed your mind, this could be the very last time we ever speak. What happens to the anger?
It's gone. It just dissolves. The need to be right, the ego, it all seems so incredibly petty.
You start listening more deeply. You find more compassion. Forgiveness becomes easy because you realize the time you have is finite, but the stakes of that relationship are infinite.
So much of our modern friction, like high divorce rates, maybe stems from this illusion that we have forever. We think we can win the argument today and fix it next week.
But time is the one resource you can never, ever recycle.
You know, our ancestors were much more in tune with this. In medieval Europe, you had the dance macabre, the dance of death.
It was a whole artistic genre. You'd see these paintings of skeletons leading everyone, the king, the pope, the peasant, to the grave.
It was a very public, very visible reminder that no one gets a pass.
And the artists used these specific symbols, Vanitas symbols, a skull, an hourglass with the sand running out, a candle being snuffed out.
Daily Memento Mori reminders.
Exactly. And you see parallels in the East, too. The samurai code of Bushido taught warriors to meditate on their own death every single morning.
Which sounds incredibly dark.
But the goal wasn't to be morbid. The goal was to achieve a calm, clear mind. The idea was that true courage doesn't come from ignoring death. It comes from deeply understanding and accepting it.
Okay, so this is all fascinating, but it's also heavy. How do we take this ancient wisdom and actually use it in our day-to-day lives without just getting depressed? I mean, we can't all hire a slave to follow us around.
No, definitely not. But the Stoics gave us a very practical tool for this. It's called negative visualization.
Negative visualization. That sounds unpleasant.
It sounds it, but it's more like a mental drill. It's not about wishing for bad things to happen.
So walk me through it. How would I actually practice this?
It's simple. You take 1 minute in the morning. Just 1 minute. And you imagine that everything you value is gone.
Everything.
Everything. Your car is wrecked, you've lost your job, and this is the hardest part, you imagine a loved one has suddenly departed. You really let yourself feel that loss for a moment.
Okay. And then what? What's the benefit of putting yourself through that?
The benefit comes the second you open your eyes. You look around and you see that your car is fine, your job is secure, and most importantly, your loved ones are right there. And what you feel is this massive, overwhelming wave of gratitude.
It's like an instant psychological reset.
Exactly. It's unearned appreciation. Suddenly, you're more likely to drive carefully, you're more intentional at work, you hug the people you love a little tighter. It's a mental drill that builds resilience for when real loss, which is inevitable, eventually happens.
And in our digital world, this feels more important than ever, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's so easy to get distracted, to get lost in these illusions of perfection on social media and just forget.
Absolutely. Just look at your watch. That ticking second hand, it's not really measuring time. It's measuring what's left of your life. It's the most honest alarm clock there is.
So the final question, the one that this whole deep dive really boils down to, comes from our source material. And it's a question you should ask yourself every night.
If I fall asleep tonight and do not wake up, am I proud of what I did today?
That's powerful.
Memento Mori isn't meant to be a depressing curse. It's an awakening. It's designed to make you thirsty for life, like someone who was lost in the desert and finally finds water.
Every moment becomes precious.
Every single second.
Yeah.
So that when your final day does come, you can look back and honestly say, I lived this life, all of it, and I have no regrets.
The real gift of death is the clarity it gives to those of us who are still living. That really is the core of it.
So here's the final thought to take with you. If the fear of failure is really just the fear of what other people will think,
A fear that, as we've said, completely collapses in the face of death.
then what bold step have you been putting off that you absolutely must take right now?
We hope you take that thought with you. That concludes this deep dive. We'll see you next time for the next discovery.